Why is Kiev withholding air traffic control recordings that could tell us what happened to Malaysian Airlines Flight 17? A transcript of the final communications between air traffic control and the pilots of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17, the one that went missing back in March, were released within 3 days of the incident. Yet here we are, nearly a week after the downing of MH17 over Ukraine, and we've received absolutely nothing out of air traffic control. And why is that? Well, it's because, as BBC reported, Ukraine's SBU security service confiscated recordings of conversations between Ukrainian air traffic control officers and the crew of the doomed airliner. The release of these transcripts will help us clear up why, on the day of the shootdown, MH17's flight path went directly over a conflict zone, in contradiction to the previous 10 flight paths of the same aircraft which avoided the area of eastern Ukraine. They may also provide an insight into why the pilots of MH17 were ordered by air traffic control authorities to fly at 33,000 feet when initially the flight path that they had filed was for an altitude of 35,000 feet. Was this merely due to storms, or was there another reason? Again, the air traffic control tapes will tell us that, but Kiev seems to be very reluctant to release them. Was MH17 escorted by Ukrainian fighter jets, as top aviation experts have asserted? Again, not Russian propaganda. Top international aviation experts have asserted that the commercial airliner MH17 was, in all likelihood, escorted by Ukrainian fighter jets before its shootdown. And again, if that's the case, then it will be evident in the conversations between the pilots and air traffic control. So why is Kiev not releasing the transcript of those conversations? Are they trying to hide the fact, as Russia asserted yesterday, that MH17 indeed was being escorted by a second plane, that there were either one or more other aircraft in the vicinity of MH17, most likely Ukrainian fighter jets? That's what Russia asserted. They presented radar and satellite evidence to attest to that fact. The only evidence we've seen from Kiev so far is dodgy YouTube videos which seem hastily slapped together and badly attributed social media posts. Not exactly an abundance of hardcore evidence coming from Kiev to prove their claim that pro-Russian separatist rebels shot down MH17. So again, release the air traffic control tapes, and this will give us an insight into what happened to the plane. Again, the transcripts from air traffic control conversations with pilots of MH370, the airliner that went missing back in March, were released within 3 days of the incident. 5 days after MH17 shootdown, and we've heard nothing about air traffic control tapes, apart from the fact that Ukrainian security service immediately confiscated them, and we've heard nothing about it since. So it's just interesting that while in the past couple of days we had this media drumbeat with the rush to finger the rebels for blame, there was this idea that they were covering up evidence from the crash scene, that they were hiding evidence to conceal their guilt, when in fact the rebels quite quickly gave up the black boxes from the aircraft. In comparison to Kiev, which has failed to release the air traffic control tapes 5 days after the shootdown. So I ask, who's concealing evidence here? Is it the rebels who have given up the black boxes, given international investigators access to the site, or is it Kiev who have withheld the key piece of evidence that could tell us what happened with this plane? So again, I appeal to Kiev authorities. Release the air traffic control tapes. If the incident happened as they say it did, separatist rebels responsible for the shootdown of MH17, fine, I can accept that. But they haven't presented any hardcore evidence to attest to that. We've seen no radar images, we've seen no satellite images, and we haven't heard the air traffic control tapes, which if released could indeed contradict with their version of events. Is that why the security services confiscated them and have thus far failed to release them? We'll continue to track it. This is Paul Joseph Watson reporting for Infowars.com.